I grew up kind of thinking I was dumb. I see systems that were never even commissioned, but there's a lot of things that are out of your control. But I could be pretty good at this business things.
I want to get right to the good stuff, man. You flunked out of school.
Yeah.
How did you turn that into a competitive advantage for yourself?
I've talked about this quite a bit, but I grew up with 2 learning disabilities. So I had ADHD growing up, and later on in life found I was dyslexic. I think I technically got diagnosed with ADHD right out of high school, and then dyslexia way later on in life. So I grew up kind of thinking I was dumb. Like, to be honest, like I didn't do well in school. I had a hard time focusing. I was a horrible test taker because I just couldn't focus on the questions, and I'd have to read them over and over again to comprehend. And so I didn't really know what I wanted to do growing up because of that. The first time I ever did good in school was actually a business class that I took in school. I actually got invited to the academic awards, and I showed up, and I ended up getting an award for business class. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I was like, you know what? I'm not really good at test taking, not great at math, definitely not good at literature, but I could be pretty good at this business thing. But I got really good at sales, and I knew like that is a tool I could use to make money. And I was making a lot more money than my friends that were graduating.
You picked a skill that's actually way 1,000 times more marketable than any of those degrees that they probably got. Your story isn't all that terribly unique.
No, it's not at all.
I probably came to find out later in life that my story isn't that unusual. It's actually pretty darn standard. And a lot of these people do very, very well in life.
Yeah.
Because they're actually nonconformists. And that's exactly the thing that holds them back in life.
Yeah.
It's that being that conformist, it's always sticking to the rules. It's always following everything to a T. You can't, it's almost impossible to do great things in life when you're a total conformist like that. What was it that clicked in life that school just couldn't teach you? What was it about sales that kind of drew you to it?
I wanted to get into sales, but I wanted to do it the right way. I think a lot of people do sales and they can get really good at it, but maybe they're setting false expectations. And I knew I had a good way of selling something, which was just enacting emotion. And anything that I sold, I really tried to find pain points, understand where they were coming from, and then help them make a decision. So I think that's what really clicked for me. Was I just learned how to sell using people's emotion. And I wouldn't call it like manipulation, because it's not.
Because that's how people buy.
Right?
Why is those people buy like 95% based off of emotion, like 5% based off of logic.
Totally. And I think a lot of salespeople want to just pitch a product. They want to really sell like, hey, this is what I offer. This is why it's better, but that's not why people buy.
I think so many people have a negative connotation on sales because they think what you just said, right? They think that sales is manipulation.
Yeah.
And there's a fine line between manipulation and persuasion. And persuasion, when done with good intention, it helps the consumer. When it's done with negative intention, then it's manipulation.
Especially when you believe in the product. That's why it's point. Because that, hey, this is going to help them. I just need to get them to actually make the decision.
Persuasion is helping people get out of their own way. Most of the time people don't buy, not because they don't believe in the product, but because people are wired to say no, because everyone likes to shop, but no one likes to be sold.
Agreed.
And so we need to help people get out of their own way. We need to help them make a decision today instead of next week by the time they've already forgotten about it. Right?
Of course.
So let's help them make a decision now. That's why we need to overcome 3 objections every single time. But these are all things we just have to expect, and then you have to, and it's not because you're trying to make the sales, because you're actually trying to help them get to their goal.
Yeah.
And they need to get out of their own way.
For sure.
I think so many salespeople miss that opportunity. You were inside the solar industry when you realized it was broken. No big surprise there. So what did you see that most customers never find out until it's just too late?
Oh, there's a lot of different things. I would say the overarching thing is there's a lack of transparency with new solar sales. And so what I saw often were people were pitching a payment, but they had no idea what they were purchasing. So what a solar sales rep would do is they would just have to beat out the utility company. Hey, I can beat them on price. But what I found on the back end was there was a lot of poor installation practices. And so a lot of these systems just weren't working. Now that I work with existing solar, I see systems that were never even commissioned, where people have been paying a loan and they just didn't realize. I see a lot of systems that get damaged because they just were never maintained. And that's just not something that was ever talked about in new solar. So I think a lot of customers thought, hey, this is a 25-year solution because that's my loan term. And it's just we're gonna put it up on the roof, set it and forget it. And it's gonna work and it's gonna eliminate my electricity bill for 25 years. Well, in reality, that's not the case. And so we've really stepped in to just help people that already have solar. And so that's why I decided to get out of selling new solar and go all in on just focusing on existing solar.
That's great. I'm glad that you do that. That's there's not a lot of people who do what you do. Where did you win? Where did you get punched in the mouth? And what did that year actually cost you?
I got into solar in 2018, decided to leave the company I was working with and start my own company in 2021 to try to sell new solar, but just with more transparency, just trying to sell it a little bit differently. We were focused more on quality over quantity, and we did relatively well. 2023, things started to slow down for us. There was some disagreements with my business partner and I just kind of wanted to change. I didn't know what that change was yet, but I just wanted to change. There was a lot of hiccups, because I didn't come from an installation background, as a lot of companies do, we chose to use the subcontractor business model. So in-house office operations, subcontractors out in the fields. I dealt with a lot of rough contractors in 2023, 2024. And that was a big learning experience for me because we want to do things the right way, but there's a lot of things that are out of your control, especially when I'm not an installer. And so I might not catch some of the things that the not greatest practices that were being used. So I spent a lot of money to rectify issues. And that was a big issue for me.
Yeah. Tell me about Solar RNR, but don't tell me like I'm a guy who knows about solar. Yeah, I know about solar. Tell me like I am clueless about solar so that other people can understand.
Yeah. So most solar companies focus on installing new solar. So they go directly to the consumer and they sell solar panels. And typically they're either financed or leased. Sometimes people buy them outright. We don't touch anything with new solar, so we don't install it. What we do is we just work with people that already have solar. And so the biggest way we do this is B2B. And so our two main target markets are going to be roofing companies and realtors. And we help them out a little bit differently. So roofing companies, anytime that they need to replace a roof that has solar panels, we'll come out, we'll remove the solar panels, and then we'll reinstall them after the fact. What I find is about 1 in 5 systems we show up to is partially functioning or not functioning at all. It's a way that I can get in front of a lot of homeowners and help a lot of people because 95% of the time we're able to rectify those issues and get their system back to functional. And so using the B2B business model has allowed me to just touch a lot of roofs and get up on a lot of roofs. Realtors, one of the few things that's not covered on a standard home inspection is the solar. So usually solar's just not getting inspected and people are spending a lot of money. They're either paying a premium for the house or they're assuming a loan or a lease. And so we find that if 1 in 5 systems aren't working and they're paying a premium for it, they should probably get it inspected before they purchase their home. So that's our main 2 target markets. And then we do work directly with consumers as well. Because as you said earlier, we've got 261 5-star Google reviews now. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, so we've built a good reputation. And so now people reach out to us to fix, troubleshoot, maintenance, repair, whatever we can do to their existing solar to get it up to par, to get it better than where it's currently at.